So in this video I'm going to show you how to do a summer granny square. So this is a lighter version of a traditional granny square because it's got more chain spaces along, the edges and less clusters on each side, or all around really, apart from the very final border join, which is a normal granny stitch clusters without any spaces. So I've done the whole border in one go for this, just for this one motif, just to show you the basic technique. But obviously if you're making a sweater or a series or a blanket, or probably not a blanket, this is designed, I've specifically designed this for cotton sweaters for summer so that they're more lightweight, cooler, and use less yarn. So obviously this is done in a continuous join. The final round is done all in one go, but it does use this pattern, and if you were going to make the same motif but have different colours for each final round, then obviously you would also be following the instructions that I'm going to explain in this upcoming video. So we've got our 3 colours for the main part of the motif, and then keep your 4th colour for the border, the final border join. So pick your first 2 colours that you're going to use for the main part of the motif. Start with our slip knot loop on the hook. We're going to chain 4 and we're going to join in the first chain with a slip stitch to make a ring. Then you're going to chain 3. You might need to chain 4, it's completely up to your own personal gauge, because this chain 3 is representing a chain 2 space and a half double crochet, which is a UK treble, which you might say, well, that adds up to 4. It does indeed. I'm doing 3 because if I do 4 I end up with a huge hole, and from having taught for many years I know that this is a very common phenomena. If you don't suffer with that, then you will be doing a chain 4, otherwise do a chain 3 just like me. I'm going to put 2 half doubles, or that's 2 UK half trebles, into the ring. That is a yarn over, into the ring, pull up a loop, you've got 3. You're going to yarn over and draw off all 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over again, into the ring, pull up a loop, you've got 3, yarn over, draw off all 3. Chain 2. For the corner, make another side, which is 2 half doubles, 2 UK half trebles, chain 2, another 2, and at this point you can catch in the tail if you like. Okay, so as you can see we've got 3 little sides and then this business at the beginning. I'm going to chain 2 to make your final corner, and then you're just going to put 1 half double into that space. Then you're going to slip stitch into your 3rd chain, into your stip, and then you're going to stip. Then you're going to slip stitch into your 2nd chain. 1, 2. Treat the chain like a normal stitch, i.e. front loop, back loop, leaving the back ridge on the chain. Yarn over and draw through. So what you should have is a little square that has got 4 sets of corners, chain spaces, and you've got 2 half doubles on each side, with the last half double being represented as part of the chain. This first round is the only round you'll be using half doubles. The rest of the rounds we're going to be splitting to switching to double crochets, which are UK trebles. So you're not going to fasten off this yarn, you're going to leave this yarn, you're not going to cut it, you're going to leave it on the hook. You're going to get your next colour and you're going to hold the tail at the back at roughly the same point in the corner. So you're holding it as if it was attached to the motif, but it isn't, you're literally just holding it. You're putting the hook into that chain space, this first one here, and you're pulling grabbing the yarn, the new colour, you're pulling it through, but then you're also pulling it through the previous colour loop, the loop on your hook which is made of the previous colour. At this point you can tighten gently the previous colour. Then you're going to chain 1. Now this bit is important because we want this other colour, the colour we've just finished with, we want that to be in the correct position for round 3. So when you've done chain 1, you need to move this yarn over to the right between the working yarn, i.e. the new colour, and your hook. So can you see how I've laid it over the top of the working yarn and between the live loop on the hook? Then you're going to make another chain 2. So you've got 3 chains in total, and then you are going to get this yarn again and you're going to wrap it over back the other way. So see how I've laid it across the top of the working yarn between my hook. Because you've gone one way and the other way, that also means there is no tangling. If you're getting tangling, it's because you're not doing the sequence correctly. Okay, then one more chain. So here you have a chain 4, which is going to be the last stitch and a chain corner. You may be doing a chain 5 if you don't have gauge problems with your chains, otherwise you're going to be doing a chain 4. Now you're going to put 2 doubles, which is 2 UK trebles, into the same corner, and if you wish you can catch in the tail of the new colour that you have just joined. So at this point you just need to make sure that you're keeping the colour that you're not using out of the way. Now we're going to go into the stitch sequence. So we're going to chain 1, and here in the next chain 2 space we are going to make a full corner, which is 2 doubles, which is 2 UK trebles, chain 2, another 2 doubles or 2 UK trebles, chain 1, and again another full corner, which is exactly the same as we've just done. So 2 stitches, 2 chains, 2 stitches, and another chain 1, 2 doubles, 2 chains, 2 doubles, chain 1. Back into this very first corner where you started, you're going to put another double, and then you're going to nick 3 of these chains to be your last stitch. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, you're going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain, front loop, back loop, treat it like a normal stitch, and slip stitch. Next up, you're going to drop this yarn, make sure it's to the left, not going to fasten off. You're going to pick up the new colour or the previous colour, and you are going to go put your hook into the chain space, pull up a loop with the previous colour, and pull it all the way through the live loop. So you're kind of slip stitching with the new colour. So this time we're actually not going to be using this green again, or colour B, so you can actually cut it, but just leave a tail that's long enough for sewing in later. Next up we are going to chain 4 or 5 depending on your preference for the start of round 3. We're going to put 2 doubles, 2 UK trebles into corner space, then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put 2 doubles into that chain 1 space on this side, chain 1, and a full corner, which is 2. Full corner sequence should be really yeah, I did 2, chain 2, 2, chain 1, 2 in the next chain 1 space along the side. Next up is a full corner, 2, chain 2, 2, chain 1, 2 in the next chain 1 space along the side, chain 1, and full corner sequence, which is 2, chain 2, 2. So these motifs often look a bit funny until you've washed and blocked them, but don't panic. As long as you've used the correct stitches and the correct stitch sequence, everything should be fine. Chain 1, 2 in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and then in this last corner we're going to finish off this partial corner by putting in just 1 and slip stitching into the 3rd chain. So it should be looking like this. Now we're going to switch to our 3rd colour for this, which is the final round, and at this point, because we're not alternating colours anymore, we're actually going to fasten off here, or we're not alternating colours. Of course you could carry on switching colours and carrying them up if you wanted to do more rounds, alternating 2 colours. So for round 4, let's move to the next corner along, and we're going to join our next colour, and I like to weave the tail up the chain. You don't have to do this if you don't like. Tail goes over to the right, over the working yarn and between the hook, chain 1. Goes back the other way, over the working yarn, between the hook, chain, well, I'm on chain 3 now really, over and across and chain. So 1, 2, you want a chain 4 here, or if you don't have gauge issues, you will do a chain 5, and you are going to put 2 doubles in the corner. So you've started with a partial corner there, chain 1, and it's the same sequence. We've just got more stitches along the side, 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, full corner sequence. Which is 2, chain 2, 2, chain 1, 2 in the next chain 1 space on the side, and this is what happens when you don't get a free flow of yarn, so make sure you've got free flow. Chain 1, 2 double in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, full corner sequence, chain 1, 2 in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 2 in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, full corner sequence, which is 2, chain 2, 2, as I said, this motif does tend to look a bit funny until you've joined it to other motifs. So if it looks a bit weird or a bit, you know, not looking very good, it does look much better once you've joined it to a bunch of other motifs. Don't forget the chain 1 in this last corner, or the first corner. We're going to just put 1 more stitch to finish off the corner, and then we're going to nick the 3rd chain here and slip stitch into there. So as I said, this stitch does need a little bit of persuasion. When you first make it, it looks a bit sad, to be honest. But then obviously once you've washed, blocked it and joined it to a bunch of other motifs, that's when it really comes into its own. So the final round is a join round, but for the sake of this video and just for your general understanding of the pattern, I'm going to demonstrate the final round without a join. If you're doing join as you go and you're doing each final round a different colour, then obviously this is highly relevant to you, because you always have to start off with one completed motif anyway. So you're going to get your next colour and you're going to hold the tail end to the back of the work near where you want to join, as if it was actually part of the fabric already. Go into the chain 2 space and pull up a loop. You're now going to chain 4 or 5 depending on your preference, and also depending on your preference you can weave in the tail as you go. So just a reminder that this weaving in method is slightly different than when you're carrying a colour up, because this is the same colour, so it doesn't really matter if we can see it a bit, and in fact it tends to kind of plump up this sort of skinny chain that you can get. When you're carrying the colour up a chain of a different colour, you're not going to weave it up every single time, you do it fewer times. But I've already explained that previously, so you have to rewind and remind yourself if you've forgotten about that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 doubles, which is 3 UK trebles into that same corner space. So you should have a partial corner like that. And now you're going to go straight in. You're not going to put any chains on this side. You're going to go straight in and do 3 doubles into the next chain 1 space, and again no chain space, you're jumping straight over into the next chain, because basically instead of doing a chain space we've made an extra double, which keeps the stitch count the same. Into the next set chain 1 space we're going to put another 3, no chains, straight into the corner space with 3, chain 2, so we do the chains for the corner, and then another 3. So you've got a full corner here, and then the sides. So you can already see how it's starting to sort out the motif a bit just with this one extra round on. Again, we're going to carry on in the same sequence, so 3 doubles in each chain 1 space. So this would be the same even if you decided to add extra rounds to that summer granny sequence. Three between the next set, and then a full corner for this traditional granny stitch, which is 3, chain 2, 3. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and finish off the rest of this round, and then I'll meet you back when I'm ready to finish off the round and sew in my ends. Coming up to the first corner, and we need to finish this off by putting another 2 doubles in that corner and joining with a slip stitch into the 3rd chain. 1, 2, there's my 3rd chain, cut the yarn over and draw through to fasten off. Okay, so here we are, and again it will start to look even better once you've joined a bunch of them together, because they sort of all pull each other into the correct tension there. Let's sew in some ends. So also to help with the shaping, this first tail end, you really want to, if you didn't catch it in as you were crocheting all the way round, what you need to do is kind of go round the back of the ring, catching the legs at the back of the stitches, and go all the way round so that you can close up that central hole completely, because I think that just helps with how the motif sits there. Catch a strand and go back the other way for a short distance. As you can see, this is how you deal with short ends. You sew the needle in first and then you poke the yarn through the hole. These scissors are completely ridiculous. Please use something more sensible and small. So these ends here, again, I'm just going to split that first strand of the same colour. Notice how I'm working in the back. I'm splitting the last strand. I've already crocheted over the top of this, so I only need to sew it back in the opposite direction once. And that is the key with sewing in ends, is going 2 different directions to stop the ends popping out. Same with this one. I've already crocheted over the top of this, so I'm just going to split the first leg of that, make sure I'm only going through the back, and then split the last leg of that last stitch, split one of the strands, and then again trim very carefully. Same with this one. I've also crocheted over this, so I only need to go back one direction, split that leg, first leg of the strand, go through the thickness of the whatever is in the corner, making sure it's not showing at the front. And again, I've popped out just before the end of that cluster. Make sure you're not pulling things too tight to distort tension. Trim. Same with these. One of these I might go back down the chain, because obviously if you're putting 2 ends into one area, it can get a bit lumpy. So this one, I think I'm going to travel down the back of this stitch here, just to avoid building up any bulk. And remember, one of these was one that I did wove up the chain anyway. So again, I'm sort of overlapping or splitting some yarns before I thread that through, and that will be enough for that one. This very last bit, my tip is not to bother sewing that in until later, just because once you've joined everything together and you've got a border, another border, it'll be easier. But this one that I carried up the chain, I'm actually going to go back down. So what you really want to be careful of when you're sewing in ends is that you're not affecting any of these top stitches here, because it might be that you need to work into them again. We don't actually need to work into them again for this particular pattern, but I've seen that before where people sew in ends and they use the bit of the stitch where you're going to crochet into again, and it sort of messes it up, unless you're doing an invisible bind off. Right, I'm actually going to travel back down that initial chain. That's really nice and tight in there, so that won't be going anywhere. When I wove this up the chain, I'm going back down the chain, and then I'm also gonna split something. This needle's not very sharp. Probably need a smaller needle for 4-ply. This is better for double knit, this one. And in there like that. And then that's enough of that. And again, this one I'll sew it in later when I've done all my joining. So there we are. There is your summer granny square. It's actually, because cotton's got stitch memory, it is quite open to persuasion in terms of being kind of forced into shape. So nice lightweight granny. It doesn't use very much yarn compared to a normal granny because of less stitches in the clusters and more chain spaces.